The Accounting Chamber of Ukraine is a supreme audit institution, or a beautiful balloon.
A free state must have clear, precise, and stable laws. John Adams. Welcome. You are on the channel of the Center for Integrity, Transformation, and Excellence in the Public Sector. Public oversight/audit in Ukraine and globally, whether external or internal, is, without exaggeration, a rather complex and multifaceted, yet extremely important and fascinating part of state building. Public bodies responsible for control or audit in the public sector are called to act as guardians, defending national interests, integrity, legality, transparency, and the efficient management and use of public resources, ensuring accountability of public institutions, including the use of your taxes. To better understand this multifaceted area of the public sector, we will explore its various aspects and elements step by step, breaking down the experience of Ukraine and the best global practices. Today, we will discuss the legislative framework of the Accounting Chamber of Ukraine. The Accounting Chamber of Ukraine is a constitutional body in Ukraine. That is, its status and powers are defined by the Constitution of Ukraine. Specifically, Article 98 of the Constitution of Ukraine states that control on behalf of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine over the receipt of funds to the state budget of Ukraine and their use is carried out by the Accounting Chamber. The organization, powers, and procedures of the Accounting Chamber are defined by law. I call this constitutional provision the savior of the Accounting Chamber of Ukraine from disappearing from the ranks of state authorities. It serves as the guarantee of its existence and operation within the system of public governance, regardless of its real and actual institutional capacity, although the chamber is, in fact, extremely functionally important for the country. The Accounting Chamber of Ukraine was established in 1996 following the adoption of the Constitution of Ukraine. In particular, in July 1996, the Law of Ukraine on the Accounting Chamber was adopted, which came into force on October 22, 1996, and this day is considered the founding day of the Accounting Chamber of Ukraine. The 1996 law defined the legal basis for the activities of the Accounting Chamber, its status, functions, powers, and procedures. According to the 1996 law, the Accounting Chamber was entrusted with the task of controlling the spending of state budget funds. Since April 2015, following legislative changes, it has also been tasked with controlling the receipt of funds to the state budget through expert analytical, informational, and other activities, inspections, and audits. However, the Accounting Chamber established in 1996 was, in fact, a continuation of the Soviet-era inspection system, both legislatively and functionally. In July 2015, a new law on the Accounting Chamber was adopted, which came into force in August 2015 and is still in effect today, while the 1996 law was repealed. In 2015, the Accounting Chamber gained the right to conduct audits, while the State Audit Service had already been conducting combined audits for almost 10 years by that time. Despite a number of inconsistencies and gaps, the 2015 law on the Accounting Chamber was a breath of fresh air, marking the first steps toward transforming the Accounting Chamber of Ukraine from a post-Soviet inspection body into a European-style external audit institution. However, the actual transformation of the Accounting Chamber began recently and is still ongoing. Notably, the issue of enhancing the institutional capacity of the Accounting Chamber is currently the subject of many discussions and debates. Furthermore, reforming the Accounting Chamber and turning it into a truly effective audit body that meets international standards is one of the requirements within the framework of European integration. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, together with international experts, is actively working on reforming the legislative framework of the Accounting Chamber and its relaunch. In addition to the Law of Ukraine on the Accounting Chamber, the organization, status, functions, powers, and procedures of the Accounting Chamber, the procedure for organizing the work of the Accounting Chamber, its territorial and other structural subdivisions, the relationship between structural units, members of the Accounting Chamber, and officials of the Chamber's staff, as well as other issues of internal organization, are defined by the regulations of the Accounting Chamber. According to the legislation, the regulations of the Accounting Chamber and any amendments to it are approved at the meeting of the Accounting Chamber by at least 2/3 of the members of the Chamber. That is, the regulations are approved by the members of the Accounting Chamber. In March 2024, a new edition of the regulations of the Accounting Chamber was approved and published on the official website of the Chamber. In future episodes, we will examine the quality and effectiveness of the current legislation governing the accounting chamber and its activities, the directions of transformation, and the enhancement of the institutional capacity of the accounting chamber. A little spoiler: despite the constitutional protection and more than 27 years of operation, there are unfortunately many difficulties and serious problems that hinder the activity of the accounting chamber, which require thoughtful strategic and conceptual solutions. The Budget Code of Ukraine stipulates that the accounting chamber, on behalf of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, exercises control over the receipt of funds to the state budget of Ukraine and their use. It is important to note that the Budget Code of Ukraine defines the legal framework for the functioning of Ukraine's budgetary system, its principles, the foundations of the budget process and interbudgetary relations, as well as liability for violations of budget legislation. According to the Budget Code, the accounting chamber performs the following functions: control over the execution of secret expenditures, control over the efficiency of managing state budget funds, control over the use of local budget funds in terms of transfers provided from the state budget, control over the fulfillment of long-term obligations under public-private partnerships, control over the receipt of nationwide taxes and fees, or their share, assigned to local budgets, as well as the use of local budget funds in relation to expenditures that are determined by state functions and may be delegated to the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and local self-governments to ensure their most effective execution based on the principle of subsidiarity. At least once every 3 years, external state financial control audit of the activities of Ukraine's debt agency in the management of state debt and state-guaranteed debt. For 2024, the accounting chamber has scheduled an audit of the compliance of state debt management. We will discuss the results of this audit once it is completed. In addition, the Budget Code requires the accounting chamber to submit quarterly reports to the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, providing conclusions on the implementation of the law on the state budget of Ukraine, as well as recommendations for addressing violations identified during the reporting budget period. Within 2 weeks of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine officially submitting the annual report on the implementation of the law on the state budget of Ukraine, the accounting chamber prepares and submits conclusions to the Verkhovna Rada on the execution of the law, including an assessment of the efficiency of managing state budget funds, along with proposals for correcting violations discovered during the reporting budget period and improving the budget process overall. The conclusions of the accounting chamber serve as one of the bases for decisions to amend the budget appropriations for the current budget period, proposals for the draft budget for the planned budget period, and the budget declaration, forecast of the local budget, including the suspension of the implementation of respective budget programs. The fact of overachievement in the revenue of the general fund of the state budget is recognized based on official conclusions from the accounting chamber and the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine on the implementation of the state budget of Ukraine for the first 3 quarters. Additionally, the Budget Code of Ukraine stipulates that the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine exercises control over the accounting chamber's activities regarding the fulfillment of its legally defined powers. Ukrainian legislation provides for administrative liability and corresponding fines for obstructing the activities of the accounting chamber. The Code of Ukraine on Administrative Offenses outlines liability for failure to comply with the lawful demands of the accounting chamber, its members, creating obstacles to their work in the performance of their duties, providing false or incomplete information, or failing to provide information within the prescribed period. Specifically, administrative fines for officials range from 200 to 350 non-taxable minimum incomes of citizens. Repeated offenses within a year, after the individual has already been subjected to an administrative penalty, result in a fine of 350 to 600 non-taxable minimum incomes of citizens. Additionally, the Code of Ukraine on Administrative Offenses grants the accounting chamber the authority to draft protocols on violations of budgetary legislation and procurement laws. For unlawful acts against the accounting chamber or its members in the course of their duties, criminal liability is also provided. The Criminal Code of Ukraine states that an attempt on the life of the chairperson or any other member of the accounting chamber due to their public or state activities is punishable by imprisonment for 10 to 15 years or life imprisonment, with or without confiscation of property. Unlawful influence of any form on the chairperson or any other member of the accounting chamber, with the intent to obstruct their duties or force them to make unlawful decisions, is punishable by a fine of 200 to 300 non-taxable minimum incomes of citizens, probationary supervision for up to 2 years, or restriction of freedom for up to 2 years, or imprisonment for the same term. threats of murder, harm to health, destruction or damage to property, or kidnapping or unlawful detention of the chairperson or other members of the accounting chamber, or their close relatives, due to their public or state activities, are punishable by restriction of freedom for up to 5 years or imprisonment for the same term. Intentional infliction of moderate or minor bodily harm, assault, or other violent acts related to their public or state activities is punishable by imprisonment for 4 to 7 years. Intentional infliction of serious bodily harm related to their public or state activities is punishable by imprisonment for 7 to 12 years. Failure of an official to comply with lawful demands of the accounting chamber or its members, creation of artificial obstacles to their work, or knowingly providing false information is punishable by a fine of 100 to 1,000 non-taxable minimum incomes of citizens, probationary supervision for up to 3 years, or restriction of freedom for the same term. The Electoral Code of Ukraine stipulates that the accounting chamber is responsible for overseeing the targeted use of local budget funds received as targeted subventions from the state budget of Ukraine. The Law of Ukraine on the Rules of Procedure of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine stipulates that the accounting chamber conducts an expert evaluation of the draft law on the state budget of Ukraine for the following year and, by October 1st of the year preceding the planned year, submits its conclusions to the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. The chairperson of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, or, according to the division of duties, the first deputy chairperson or deputy chairperson of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, within 5 days from the date of receipt, forwards the reports of the Anti-Monopoly Committee of Ukraine and the State Property Fund of Ukraine to the accounting chamber for preliminary analysis. The Verkhovna Rada instructs the accounting chamber to conduct a financial audit of the execution of the budget of the Verkhovna Rada for the current year, in case a decision is made to include in the agenda of a session of the Verkhovna Rada the issue of the dismissal of the chairperson of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. The Verkhovna Rada appoints and dismisses the chairperson and other members of the accounting chamber. A separate issue will cover the specifics of appointing members and their activities. During the discussion of the draft law on the state budget of Ukraine for the following year in the first reading, the representatives of the accounting chamber are given the floor to speak. During the consideration of the annual report on the execution of the law on the state budget of Ukraine, co-reports on this issue are presented by the chair of the committee responsible for budgetary matters and the chairperson of the accounting chamber. The chairperson of the accounting chamber is also invited to the plenary session of the Verkhovna Rada during the hearing of annual and extraordinary addresses by the President of Ukraine. Each year, the Verkhovna Rada reviews the report on the activities of the accounting chamber. The Verkhovna Rada may adopt a procedural decision to conduct an unscheduled external state financial control measure, audit, by the accounting chamber, initiated by at least one parliamentary faction, group. The accounting chamber submits reports on the results of external state financial control, audit, measures, as well as the decisions of the accounting chamber made based on the discussion of such reports, to the Verkhovna Rada within 15 days from the date of the report's approval. The accounting chamber also submits information to the Verkhovna Rada on the status of implementation of its decisions by the entities under its control within 45 days of receiving information from the controlled entity. The accounting chamber prepares and submits its annual report on its activities to the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine no later than May 1st of the year following the reporting year. The requirements and content of the annual report, as well as domestic and international practices, will be discussed in upcoming issues. The chairperson of the accounting chamber presents this annual report at a plenary session of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. The Law of Ukraine on National Security stipulates that the accounting chamber, on behalf of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, oversees the revenues to the state budget of Ukraine and their use. The Law of Ukraine on Public Procurement stipulates that the accounting chamber exercises control in the field of public procurement within the scope of its powers as defined by the Constitution and laws of Ukraine. Friends, today we have covered the legislative framework of an extremely important constitutional body of Ukraine, the Accounting Chamber of Ukraine. Thank you for watching this episode, and thank you for staying with me until the end. Also, don't hesitate to share your thoughts, impressions, and views in the comments. Friends, you can support the growth of this channel. If you wish, you can contribute to the development of this channel, which combines expert research and educational initiatives. A simple subscription, like, and comment from you is all it takes. It's very simple. Stay with me, because here we speak professionally, honestly, without embellishment, calling things by their names and discussing what truly is and how things really are. And most importantly, friends, stay with Ukraine. Your support is crucial for us. Right now, Ukraine is fighting for the triumph of good and justice in the world. Ukraine is fighting against a terrible evil that threatens the entire world. Ukraine is fighting for life and a bright future for the civilized and free world. Ukraine is battling pure evil, the empire of lies, cannibalism, the Mordor that is Russia. Ukraine fights at the cost of the lives of its sons and daughters. So please, support and pray for Ukraine. We have God on our side. We will win. Good will surely prevail. Friends, take care of yourselves and your loved ones. See you soon, bright minds. I would like to finish with a wonderful quote from Margaret Thatcher, one of my favorites. The only way to climb to the top of the ladder is to go up step by step, one rung at a time. And in the process of climbing, you will suddenly find yourself possessing all the qualities, skills, and abilities needed for success, which you seem to never have had.